Hey, Stemsters. Mr. Santella back with another Cultures of Dignity lesson for you. Today's lesson is about how to practice dignity. Before we get into that, let's review a couple things that we did in the last two lessons. All right, so the first lesson was about the 10 elements of dignity, and I had asked you to create a flip grid about these 10 elements. Just to review them, we've got recognition, acknowledgement, benefit of the doubt, inclusion, safety, understanding, acceptance of identity, fairness, independence, and accountability. All right, last week we learned the difference between dignity and respect. So dignity is inherent worth and value of every human. So you just have it, you're born with it, it's your value. Everyone has the same amount, okay? Respect is admiration of someone's actions, traits, or accomplishments. So you can admire somebody for what they do, who they are, or something that they've accomplished. Respect is earned or lost, and is earned by going above and beyond. That's usually how you find or you have respect for somebody is they've gone above and beyond with either their actions, traits, or accomplishments. Okay, so dignity, how to practice. When someone violates our dignity, our instincts react as if we're being threatened. So, in the last lesson, I talked about how when we feel threatened, we go into our shell, okay? And when our dignity is being violated, that's exactly what happens. As we feel we're being threatened, the lizard part of our brain is like, I just need to survive. I'm going to go into a shell, or I'm going to react and fight back, whatever it is. So when our dignity is violated, we feel like we're being threatened. So we're under attack, time to protect ourselves. Okay, so in that moment, we don't want to pause and reflect. We're not like, I wonder. No, okay? We don't care about empathy and we don't want to solve the problem. All we want is to protect ourselves from more harm. Again, it's called fight or flight, is what it is. You're either gonna fight it or your flight means you're gonna run. Okay? You're just worried about avoiding more harm. So telling your brain to calm down in those moments can feel impossible, right? You're just reacting. It can also be really upsetting when others tell you to calm down. They're like, no, just calm down. Why can't you just calm down? Yes, it can be totally, totally frustrating. And look, as a teacher, I've done that before. I've had students that have been like, all right, we just need to calm down. It's like, well, duh, of course we need to calm down. Help me calm down. So, and rightly so, pain is pain and it hurts, sometimes a lot. All right. So you don't have to have physical pain for you to be in pain. It can be emotional pain as well. All right. It can be really tempting to lash out, but that only keeps the conflict going. It doesn't solve a conflict to respond with fighting back or running away. It really doesn't. It either takes you away from it or it makes it bigger, but it doesn't solve it. Okay. And when you do that, you're taking away their dignity as well as your own. Okay. So if you just keep the conflict going, it's like this battle of I'll take your dignity, you take my dignity. You'll take yours, you take mine. It's just this constant battle and nobody wins. All right. So we're all likely to fall into patterns and responses that don't actually help us, even though they might feel good in the moment, right? Sometimes it feels good to lash out and say, oh, yeah, well, in that moment, you might feel okay. But then later on, you kind of have this remorse about, oh, I shouldn't have done that, or I shouldn't have said that, right? So thinking through the tips that I'm about to show you can help you be mindful and and help you avoid those situations. Okay, so I've got 10 things for you to really think about, to really reflect on, that will help you keep your dignity and keep the dignity of the person or people you're interacting with. All right, number one, taking the bait. Don't let the bad behavior of others determine your own. So don't just do something because everybody else is doing it. Or if someone's being rude to you, it's not this, well, they were being rude to me, so I'm going to be rude to them. No, that's not how you solve it. That just makes it bigger. Okay. Acting with restraint is treating somebody with dignity. It's hard though. Okay. It is hard. Someone says something about you or makes you feel a certain way or physically harms you. It's hard to not react to that in a negative way. Okay. Restraint is I'm not going to do what I am just programmed to do. I'm not going to run. I'm not going to fight back. Okay. I'm going to act with a restraint. You're showing dignity to the person that harmed you. That's big. Also, it's hard. That's why it takes practice. Wanting to save face. So we talked about saving face before. It means like you don't want to be seen as wrong. So it can be tempting to deny that what we've done to protect our pride, or I'm sorry, it can be tempting to deny what we've done to protect our pride. So denying it so that you don't like look wrong or you don't look like a bad person, right? It can be tempting just to say, nope, it wasn't me. I didn't do it. It was Mr. Shields. He did it. So acknowledging anything that you may have done that contributed to the conflict is so important. Owning it, accountability. Yeah, I messed up. I've never met a perfect person, and there will never be such a thing as a perfect person. That's okay. But when you don't hold yourself accountable or other people accountable for their actions, that's not a good thing. That does not lead to a positive outcome for anybody. All right. And admitting that you made a mistake is a sign of strength. It really is. Admitting when you're wrong, that is harder than just denying it or lying about it, right? It is a sign of strength to take ownership of something, especially when it's a mistake. It's easy when it's something awesome, right? Oh, well, I did that. I made that cool, robot in Lego Club that helped us win the tournament. I did that. But then it's also super hard to be the one who's like, well, I made a mistake that cost us the tournament, right? One is easy, one is hard. One takes strength, one not so much. Avoiding responsibility. This really ties into what I was just talking about. Admit that you've made a mistake and apologize for hurting them. And it's got to be genuine though, right? That means you say sorry with a genuine tone of voice. You know what you did and you don't make excuses. You're genuine. People can tell when you're being phony with them. Maybe not all the time, but most of the time they can tell when you're totally fake. Be genuine. Look them in the eye. Use a good tone. Think about what you're going to say. Be genuine. All right. Don't be tricked by false dignity. Okay. So beware of seeking external recognition through praise, approval, or asking others to agree with your point of view. Don't sit there and when you're making a point or you're attacking somebody to get other people to jump in and say, well, I'm right? And tell them I'm right. That's not how it works. You're just dragging somebody else into the conflict, and you're damaging the other person's dignity by doing that. If we depend on others alone for validation of our worth, we are seeking false dignity, right? So we want someone to tell us, oh, that we were right or what we did was amazing. And if we only rely on that, then we have false dignity. Now, believe me, it feels good to be recognized for your achievements, for sure. But if that's all you rely on, it's not real dignity, it's false. Okay. And remember, our dignity comes from within ourselves. All right. We have it, it's already there. We have to be proud of it and we have to protect it and we've got to use it. All right. Beware of false security. Sometimes our need for connection compromises our dignity. So, we've been in a relationship, we've all had relationships, and I don't mean boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever it is. We've all been in relationships, okay? And sometimes the relationships aren't good. And we want that connection so bad that we're willing to stick it out, right? Because we're so interested in that connection, because as humans, we are wired to want connection. That's one of the reasons why this pandemic has been hard on so many people, is because we've lost a connection with people that we care about or that we value or whatever it is. We are hardwired as humans for connection. Sometimes though, that can be a bad thing. We've got to be mentally strong and to see that, right? So we can be in relationships that feel good, but actually aren't good for us. And if we remain in relationships where we feel small, our need for connection is outweighing our dignity. So you're putting, like I just said, you're putting your I need to be with somebody over I need to keep my dignity. Okay. Dignity should always come first. It is inherent in us. We all have it. We all have the same amount. Standing in your worth. Okay. When someone is trying to make us feel small, it's a signal that there is something in the relationship that needs to change. So if someone's attacking you or trying to make you feel less than them, there's something in that relationship that needs to change. It needs to be discussed. It needs to be talked about. Okay. Sometimes we're in relationships where that can just happen, where that just can't happen, where that change isn't going to happen. Okay. And that's okay. Noticing it sometimes can be hard, right? When you're in the middle of the storm, sometimes it's really hard to see what's going on around you. Okay. And even then, we can hold on to remembering that we matter and our experiences and feelings are important. So that's where you go back to I have dignity. Is this relationship something that is giving me positive feeling, or is it something that's giving me negative feeling? Right. And this happens with siblings. This happens with parents. This happens with, whoever, right? I've seen siblings that, they have a relationship, they're siblings, but it's not healthy. Well, something needs to change. They need to sit down and talk it out, or find a way to identify the problem and then solve it. All right. Intent and impact aren't the same. This is a big one. Intention is a purpose or goal. Impact is having a strong effect on someone. What you intend to communicate isn't always how it's received, and you may not be aware of how you're coming across. So you may say something to somebody and they take it one way when you intended it to be another way. They might have taken it as you were putting them down when in fact you were trying to give them a compliment. How you say it, the words you use, your body language. I don't know exactly, but I want to say like 70% of our actual communication with people is nonverbal. So it's our body language, it's our facial expressions, okay? It's the tone of our voice. Those impact how people understand what we're saying, how we communicate, okay? And if you want people to understand if you want people to understand you, you have to be open to hearing how others interpret what you're saying. So by that, I mean, if you really want people to understand you, you've got to be able to listen to somebody saying, you know what, Mr. Santel, you said this and it made me feel like this. It's like, oh, I'm so sorry. That wasn't my intent. I understand how you could feel that way. Let me explain what I really meant by it. What was my intention? Let me explain that to you. But that starts with you listening and hearing what other people have to say and how they felt about what you just said or what you did. All right, accepting feedback. Now, this is tough. This is still something that I, as an adult, am working on, accepting feedback. I love it, but there are times when I just am not ready to hear it. But I don't think there's ever been a time when as a professional in being in education, where I've gotten feedback and it hasn't helped me. Okay, so accepting feedback is huge. It's hard to receive criticism, right? Because someone's telling you, hey, this is something you can do to be better. That's not always easy to hear. And we all have blind spots. Everybody has something that they can improve on, right? We all have glows and grows, right? Areas of growth, things that we're crushing, right? That's everybody. Our instinct is to resist constructive criticism is undesirable, or I'm sorry, is understandable, right? Everybody feels that way. Nobody wants to be told, hey, you can do this better. And I can't say nobody, but it's about how you're given that feedback as well, okay? So accepting feedback is less scary if, remember, our dignity isn't negotiable. So feedback doesn't impact our dignity. It's still there. And if we understand that, then we can appreciate feedback as a growth opportunity, because that's really what it is. I get feedback all the time at my job, okay? And I really appreciate it, and I respect the people that are giving it to me, because they want me to be better. They're not trying to point out what I'm bad at. They're trying to help me be better at something. Okay. So that's a shift in how you hear that too. Okay. Blaming and shaming. If we feel the urge to defend ourselves by making others look bad, we have to pause and recognize what we're doing. Blaming and shaming others doesn't fix anything. While it makes us feel better in the moment, we continue to experience similar problems. Again, blaming and shaming is a way to deflect what the real problem is. Okay. So we've got to recognize when we're blaming or shaming somebody and stop it because we're impacting their dignity. We're trying to take that dignity away from them. That's not fair. It's also true when someone's doing that to us. We have to hold them accountable. Okay. And make sure that we're working towards fixing whatever it is, whatever the conflict is. We're working towards fixing that. Okay. And the last one, gossiping. It is a huge area of growth in middle school for a lot of scholars. And I'll say in fourth and fifth grade, I was a fourth grade teacher for a while, um, to stop gossiping. It's tempting to connect with others by talking about other people. Okay. Being critical and judgmental about others when they aren't present can feel like a bonding experience. So, you get together with your friends and you're talking about this one person and everybody's like, oh yeah, yeah, and you're bonding. It feels like you're building a stronger connection with those friends. Yes, but you're kind of doing it in a mean, yeah, you're just doing it in a mean way. If you want to create intimacy with others, speak the truth about yourself, about what is really happening in your world, and invite others to do the same. So instead of gossiping about people that aren't there, talk about yourself. Talk about what you've got going on, and that's how you make connections. I make connections all the time with people that are teachers. You just say, hey, I'm a teacher. They're like, oh, I'm a teacher too. And then you have that connection. We're not talking about other people. We're talking about ourselves and seeing what we have in common. And this is a great tool to use as well. Like, you might not agree with somebody and their views on whatever, but that's one thing. I guarantee you guys have a connection on something that could bring you guys together. Okay. But really, you've got to stop the gossiping. Stop talking about other people. Start talking about what you have in common with your friends. All right. So dignity is the path forward. Always, dignity is the foundation of what you do. It needs to be in your brain. All right. You matter. Your feelings matter, but also other people matter. All right. So for this week, I'm going to have you answer these 3 questions using a Flipgrid or a Google form. So the link for the Flipgrid and the Google form will be in your Schoology. The questions are, which ones do you need to focus on? So I'm talking about the 10 things to practice. Which one or ones do you want to practice and why? And who is the person you need to practice with the most right now and why? All right, scholars. I guess until I see you next week, have a great rest of your week. Bye.